All right, we can all take our seats and gather here today. Appreciate it. Next up, we have Will Mason for Twilio to talk about how they use Zendesk to build premium support to provide better customer service. Came up to me and was like, yo, I just built this site in it was like 4 hours or something like that, something crazy.
Like a prototype.
Yeah. Using our API, and I was like, dude, I have to find a way for you to come and talk to some people, so I appreciate you coming out. But everybody, say welcome Will from Twilio.
Thank you, thank you. Well, first I want to thank Devaris for the invitation and the opportunity to come talk to you all. So, as I said, or as he said, I'm Will Mason. I work at Twilio as a senior software engineer. I'm on the user experience team. Although I hope most of you are familiar with Twilio. Twilio is a communication API for businesses to send SMSs, phone calls, and in-client phone calls. In browser. So what I'm going to talk about today is how we handled support historically, kind of up until this project that Devaris is talking about, why we needed to go beyond that and really offer more for our customers, and which turned into a product that we call premium support, which I will get a little bit more into later. Last but not least, there will be some challenges faced because, as we all know in development, it's not always as easy as we think it is when we start a project. So, how we handled support historically was, well, we used Zendesk, and which is primarily email-based for our customers. Customers wanted to email support forwarded right into Zendesk, and some people would come to our site, and we had a web form that was the first integration with the old version of the API. And from the beginning, we had a system of triggers and webhooks. And the idea was that we would kind of collect all the data of the interactions that we had with our customers for having support later. So the reason this worked is in the beginning of Twilio, we generally had smaller customers. We had developers, startups, you name it, but most of them were on the smaller scale, and they were very happy with this kind of simple solution in the sense that we didn't need to build it ourselves. And that's the next point. We didn't have to build it in-house. We used Zendesk from the beginning. And it also allowed us to have a smaller team of customer service representatives. And while still providing like a full-touch solution for the customers that did contact us and needed help and so on. And if you have like a team of 3, which it started even smaller than that, you can still service a lot of customers if they're not tied up on the phone in like a call center or things like that, which just it takes more time. So why we needed to go beyond this? And this is kind of one of the key points, which was that we started getting bigger and bigger customers. As Twilio grew, our customer base grew, and the size of our customers grew. And when we got into enterprise, they want more, as they always do. Specifically, they wanted service level agreements. And so we thought and thought, and we wondered, how would we provide this? And that's the birth of premium support. Previously, all of our support products were free. Or I shouldn't say products, all of our support was free. You use Twilio, support's always included. With premium support, we offered guaranteed response times. Although we had good response times in the past, there was no guarantees around it. And so, after hours and things like that, sometimes you'd have to wait a little bit if you were working at 2 in the morning and you ran into a problem. The other thing that we offered for the first time was phone support. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it was primarily email-based before. People would visit support.twilio.com, which was our Zendesk kind of portal, and use email support or our web form if people stumbled across our site and wanted support that way. But for the first time, we offered phone support. And the really important one was 24/7 emergency response. As we got into enterprise, and something I left off one of the previous slides is international customers, they don't sleep on the same schedule as us. So people want help around the clock. And so this is some of the built product of premium support. Now, one of the things we wanted from the beginning was it to be self-service. So this is a portion of the Twilio account portal. You can come in here, pick one of the various plans. As you can see, everybody starts on free. It costs nothing, and it comes with basic email support. As your needs step up, you can go all the way up to the 24/7 plan, which gives you that round-the-clock support and a pretty tight SLA. And in Twilio style, you can pay for this with a credit card. And it's pay as you go. You commit to a month, but nothing more. We don't believe in long contracts. We never have, and I don't believe we ever will. But it's kind of the no shenanigans way of doing things. So as a bonus, and this is the part that I think tripped Devaris out, was I built a ticketing interface inside the account portal. Because why not? I have lots of extra time. Yeah, no, I don't. And so here's like a submit a new ticket interface, which then we had to have threading and commenting. And so as our customer service representatives respond in the Zendesk agent interface, they would show back up here. And then customers can interact back. And last but not least, you have all your recent tickets. You will notice a lot of very similar subjects in there. This is my actual account. And I submit a lot of tickets, which keeps the customer service reps on their toes. See all this, you wonder, well, you used Zendesk from the beginning, or you may wonder. So why would you kind of rebuild portions of Zendesk? And in some respects, I did, but in the larger respect, I didn't. And our number one reason, besides it's a lot of work, was that our customer service reps love Zendesk. They just love it. So even if we were willing to take on the work as the engineers, there's no way they would have it. Like, we'd have to clone you guys verbatim. So to build this, use the version 2 of the API. And the reason that this was a big step forward in my mind and a lot of the other engineers on my team, it kind of was the next phase, more mature, more restful in a way that we like. And I thought it was much better than version 1. But so how we did that. I started by writing a PHP client to talk to the API. It's built on a library that we have internally called requests.php. If there are some Python developers in the audience, it is a port of the Python library requests. And it's basically a very, very simple curl wrapper. And me as a PHP developer, I don't like interacting with curl directly, so built it on this. The goals of the client from the beginning were just to be a simple wrapper around the API endpoints. And as you can see some here, there's not a whole lot of code, but this is the basics of sending a request. And in 2 or 3 lines below that, I can hit a specific endpoint, do a post, get, put, or delete, and get just a basic response back. And the last bit, the reason I wrote this so fast, and might have been that 3-hour time I told you about, Devaris, was that we only exposed the endpoints we needed. Obviously, there's a whole lot available in the version 2 API. There's a small subset, maybe 20%, that we needed to build the account portal stuff and to support premium support. So one of the other things we had to do in doing this, besides just writing code and talking to the API, was come up with a data model. Now, at Twilio, we have accounts and users. Accounts do things like own phone numbers, have credit cards, and is the main entity in Twilio that you also authenticate against the API with. Underneath that, you have users. Users are individuals, like really they are a bunch of login credentials. So then the last bit was the premium support, as you can see on the top. And that's attached at an account level. And it mapped very nicely over to Zendesk. Zendesk has users, so it's kind of a one-to-one to our users. They have organizations, and that's a one-to-one to our accounts. And then so we put the premium support information in a group, and kind of on our merry way. Another thing that we wanted to, or needed to do, in offering premium support is collect more analytics. So as I mentioned before, we had these triggers and webhooks. And literally when one of our agents responds to a ticket, or pretty much any change to the state of that ticket, we get a webhook to an endpoint that we're listening on from Zendesk, and we log that as what we call a customer service event. And literally, we log all of them. So this allows us to do internal reporting, which is key for offering SLAs. Before, we had kind of rough estimates of our average response times and so on, but when we are asking people to pay us for a service level agreement, we have to be able to track that in how we're kind of fulfilling. So this is kind of a screenshot of one of our internal reports, and it's colorized based on how close they are to hitting their SLA, and it's segmented by all the agents. So that brings me into phone support. Phone support, again, is powered by Zendesk Voice, and I'm sorry for the capital D. But this is kind of interesting, because Zendesk Voice is powered by Twilio Client. And there's kind of, well, for most people, this works great. And even for us, this works great. Zendesk, and so they love using Zendesk Voice. Why go to a different product or a different portal just to do phone support? They allow it to have their headset plugged right into their computer. It's in the agent interface, and things work great. Over 99% of the time. But what if a customer calls about Twilio client issues? Since we, there is kind of a failover system that we put in place that was higher up. I'm actually forgetting one of the providers we used, but when you are the phone company and you get calls about the phone being down, how do you receive that call? And so we had to do a few clever things, and basically when we try to contact Zendesk Voice and Zendesk Voice doesn't respond because we're having some kind of issue, we fail over to basically a hard line. I mean, it happens to be a cell phone, but it's also what we do after hours when people aren't sitting at their terminal. So kind of what this allowed us to do was offer support on more channels, or all the channels. We have email. That was, of course, something that we had from the beginning. People can email in at twilio.com. We offered phone, which was brand new for us, and allowed us to leverage a product that was using us as a product, so it was a win-win for dog fooding. We had our old web form, where if you just went to twilio.com/help, there's a little form like, please help me, because we, from the beginning, have always wanted to be easy to contact. There's the Zendesk interface, the support.twilio.com, which is our Zendesk instance, and then the new account portal interface. Then came a product called Multi-User, but interesting. Now, a little bit of background about Multi-User. This is something that we've been working on for a while. Actually, I've been working on for quite a while. But this is my account. And this is my Manage Users interface, and more specifically, the Add New User interface. And I'm allowed to invite people to my account. Never do on Twilio. And this is, once again, great for the larger companies who you may have a boss, a CEO, whatever, open an account, go, yeah, we're going to use Twilio, and then they want to invite all the developers to it. Since they're not going to be the one writing the code, they pay the bills. But they don't always want to pay the bills, because they have a billing department. So we have this kind of concept of permissions, administrators, developers, billing managers, and we kind of redact certain parts of the site that you don't need. And a lot of people in the billing department don't want to see scary things in codes and auth tokens and you name it. They just are there to see usage, pay bills, and collect reports, and kind of be done with it. The other side of this is that these are all my accounts, and I'm logged in as one user. And previously, people believed or didn't really care that there was a difference between a user and an account. They kind of treated it as one thing. It was like my Twilio account. Well, it's really my Twilio user and my Twilio account. And so I have many Twilio accounts. There's a lot of these for testing, but it gives you an idea of 8 accounts I have. And when we were originally designing the Zendesk data model, or I should say the data model that we use to map our information to Zendesk information, I was thinking, oh, great, this is going to work perfectly, because you can have many users in an organization, and they'll be able to share tickets if we want to or not. And for some reason, I kind of overlooked the other case, which was that if I have many accounts, I cannot be a member of many organizations on the Zendesk side. So did some brainstorming, actually got on the phone with Devaris, and we came up with a solution. Is it the best solution in the world? No, but it does work. And that was custom fields. So we defined some custom fields to store extra information we needed, which was the account SID, or basically the unique account identifier that we have on our end. And then when you're in the account portal, viewing your list of recent tickets, we can filter it by the account SID that you're currently logged in under and what was tagged on the ticket. So we fetch them all and filter out all the ones that don't match. It's not the most efficient thing, but most of our customers do not have a giant list of tickets. So it's the same number of requests. We just throw a little bit of data away. And then we implemented a concept called lazy backfilling. And this was for several reasons. One of them was I didn't want to write a script that would go backfill everybody's account SID into every ticket they've ever sent, ever. And I didn't want to slam Zendesk's API and get ourselves rate limited again. It has happened before.
Thank you.
And so, sorry. But even though there were some things along the way, you know, I don't know if I painted some of it as easy-ish, and especially when you said, you built it in 3 hours. It was not all kittens and roses. And there were some challenges. So some of them, and this is partially due to our design, we would end up making many requests just to render one page on our side. And these are the challenges faced by, we're not storing most of this data. So to build one page, let's say just the ticket threading page, so you're looking at the instance of one ticket, we will have to make a request for your user, a request for your organization. We have like a hard-coded thing of all the groups so that we can detect which premium support you're in. But then we fetch the ticket, and then we have to fetch all the comments. And to get a little bit of extra information, like the user's avatar and the date it was submitted, we have to go get the audits from the API. So we end up making a lot of requests. Now, the pages still load fairly fast, but we also get into a lot of repeated requests. That user, that organization, that stuff, we fetch it over and over and over again. Anytime you're in the support interfaces, you end up just getting the same information again and again. We were able to surface those account SIDs and that account information inside the agent interface, but it means that they have to kind of look at it and think about which account this person's talking about. You know, is it their personal account or the company they work for? And it adds a little bit of an overhead to the human process for our agents. And then this last bit, which was developer API. Now, as simple as the version 2 API of Zendesk was to integrate with, and I have to say it was a pleasure. Although I got into it, I read a lot of the documentation. You know, I've got lots of engineers on my team that need to interact with Zendesk. And based on the way I built it, which was the simple wrapper concept, they have to go read Zendesk API documentation. And even though that doesn't take very long, I kind of felt it's a little unnecessary. So the next steps, what I wanted to do with the Zendesk API, which is kind of on my roadmap. And really, my other engineers, or the other engineers on my team, should not be concerned with the structure of the API. Whether it's easy or not, it's irrelevant. The fact that it's going over the wire or talking to a data, we should have a common interface that we like internally. Caching. Remember I mentioned all of those repetitive requests? A lot of the highly repetitious ones are the ones that change the least. So it seems like a really easy candidate for caching, but it still has to be done intelligently. And triggers. So I mentioned that we had triggers from the beginning. There's a little technical debt there. It's one of the brittle things we have in this kind of machine that is our support kind of process and more specific. And I have broken them more than once. Simple little errors. Like the complicated stuff tend to get right, and I tend to break the triggers more than anything else. So those could use a refactor. And this last little bit is kind of a wish, which is a hope for extension to the Zendesk data model that would map either more freely to other data models or more literally to our data model after we introduced multi-user. And that's it. I want to thank you all for having me and open the floor if there's any questions. That's great to hear. So it was just mentioned that multiple organizations is on the way. And I had heard that hint, and I figured I'd just nudge at it again. Anything else? Well, thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Will. Appreciate it.